Think about it. Think about it. Think about it.
Hey, welcome back to High School Basketball Weekly. Tim Maury alongside of Rick Bula. And Rick, week one is in the books for high school basketball. We're looking forward to a great season, and we got off to a real bang this week when we started our broadcast by covering the Drury Monument game between two really good teams, and it was a great game from beginning to end. Really.
Yeah, when we took a look at the schedule, Tim, before the season started, I took a look at that game and I said, boy, that'd be a great start for Coach Rissette's kids playing a premier Western Mass powerhouse in Division III, the Monument Mountain Spartans, Granny Colas' kids, and we said we got to put that one down. And it's always good. You want to win your home opener in your first game, and it didn't work out that way. But I know you and John Franzoni had the privilege of covering that game, and I know that Drury did make a run there in the third quarter. Took a 1-point lead for a very short period of time, but that's a darn good team down in Great Barrington. So, but pretty good effort for the Blue Devils.
Absolutely. They lost the game 69-55, but the game was much closer than that. And as you alluded to, Rick, Drury for 3 quarters was right in this game. It went back and forth. Monument with a very experienced team. They start 4 seniors and a junior. They made a run in that fourth quarter and pulled away from Drury, but an outstanding effort for Drury, given the fact they were missing 2 starters, Rick.
Yeah, we mentioned that on our preseason show. We found out that Miles Beauchamp had suffered an ankle injury in fall athletics, and Connor Hinkle doing some workouts for the basketball team. So the one thing that their Coach Rissette's almost positive of is their return, not exactly when they're going to be returning, but they will be part of the basketball team this season, and he's going to need them. Connor Hinkle with his power offensive and defensive rebound, his defense, his passing, and I think you're going to see some scoring out of him. And Miles Beauchamp, just with his senior leadership and the experience he has, and they're going to be fine down there. But 69-55, you said the game was much closer, and I'm sure it was. But they played some younger kids, or they played some seniors that didn't have a lot of court time in the past year, and they held their own. That was good.
They certainly did. And that game, by the way, can be seen right after our broadcast here at High School Basketball Weekly. We'll have the replay of Monument Mountain versus Drury. You don't want to miss it. It was a really competitive, exciting basketball game. The crowd was into it. The kids were into it, and we enjoyed doing the game. So you want to check that out right after High School Basketball Weekly. But Drury, they bounced right back, Rick.
They did, yeah. They went to Southwick, and they came home with an 88-57 win. And they led all the way this time. They led 19-9, 41-24 at the half, and 67-42 after 3. And for the second straight game, no surprise, and he's going to be a real good one. He already is as a 10th grader. Guard Jorge Bond led the way with 22 points. He had 21 points in that game that you and John did against Monument Mountain. Right. So he's bringing what he's finished with last season right in the beginning of this season. Sam Moorman, who was in double figures both games, he had 10 against Monument, and he had 22 points with Jorge. So they had a great game. And I haven't seen him play a varsity game yet, but Sam Bullitt, a 9th grader, I've seen him play JV basketball. Coach Rissette's very high on him, and he had 2 back-to-back good games.
He absolutely did as a freshman. Coming out on the court, especially starting in his first game as a freshman against Monument Mountain. He's looked real nice. And another player, we of course, Jorge Bond, we know he's a great shooter, Rick, but I was impressed with his ability to put the ball on the floor against Monument and take it to the basket. So he's added another dimension to his game. And he works so hard on his game all year long, and it really shows. So Jorge Bond, Rick, our boys player of the week for 2 very good efforts for the Drury Blue Devils.
Yeah, Coach Rissette was very high on him and brought him up nice and slowly like he usually does with his younger kids. And Jorge was a starter last year, and became a leader as a ninth grader by the end of the season, and he's going to have an outstanding year. And I don't want to move on to another team yet, Tim, until we even mention senior James Varelis, who is a great shooter. And he grew over the summer, and he scored 13 last night against Southwick. And so between him and senior Colin Daly, who got some experience last year also, what Coach Rissett's team's going to have to do is just kind of hold their own right now and wait for the two starters to come back. In the meantime, these younger kids getting experience on the varsity level, that will pay dividends at the end of the season.
Oh, unquestioned. It's going to really improve the overall depth of Drury. They're going to be, again, in my opinion, they're going to be a force to contend with in Division 5. Both in Western Mass and in the state tournament.
And so, tonight, another road game at Greenfield, and we'll report on that game next week.
Yeah, and that's a very, very good Greenfield team, too. So, Drury, they're playing a pretty tough schedule here right out of the gate. So we'll report on that one next week.
Right, yeah.
Hoosick Valley got off. They only had one game, a second game being played. We don't have a report on that against Belchertown, but they started off against Bay State Academy, and kind of an easy ball game for them.
Yeah,
season.
Bay State's been down the last couple of years. Last year and the first game this year, and that was an easy win for Coach Robinson's kids. And he was led by three kids that I would have guessed were going to lead the team in no particular order. But I think you're going to see these three young men's names as the top three scorers pretty much every game. Aiden Wicks with 27 led the way. Trevor Moynihan had 19, and Cornell Bradley had 12. And Hoosick Valley just jumped right out the gate and led 31-3 after one. They never really looked back. They played an even second half, but the game was well under control for the Hurricanes. And all 12 players that Coach Robinson put in that ball game all hit the scoring column, which is nice. It gives them a good feeling that they did something out there that made the difference in that ball game. So, and as I said, we'll report on the Belchertown game next week.
Right, and so Hoosick Valley, they made it all the way to the Division 5 state finals last year, and they're off to a good start this year, beating Bay State Academy handily. Mount Greylock had a tough opening week, Rick. They're 0-2. They lost to Pioneer Valley and to Brattleboro, Vermont.
Well, the first thing I want to do, Tim, is make a correction to all our viewers out there, because when we did our preseason show, this is the first time we did it before the Jamboree, when the rosters are all out there. And we had to do some assuming, and we assumed wrong, or at least I did, in mentioning that at Mount Greylock, Noah Kane Smalls, the outstanding 10th grader, would be back with the Mounties. But little did I know, he had transferred to Pittsfield and is part of Jerome Edgerton's team down there with the Generals. And the report that I'm getting from my contacts in Pittsfield is that he is the first young man off the bench. So that just tells you how strong the PHS team is. He averaged 16 for Greylock last year, and he's not getting a starting role just because of the strength. And I want to also mention that PHS lost their 5 starters from last year's squad. So they just keep rebuilding. And they're a larger school, and we understand that. But Noah Kane Smalls, who would add so much value to Greylock, has transferred, and we wish him nothing but the best down there. But the Mounties lost to Pioneer Valley, a very, very premier top 3 or 4 Division 5 team in the state. 94-57. I'm sorry, 93-20. Aiden Champagne led the way with only 6 points. And they did a little bit better against Brattleboro, losing 47-36. Nolan Barnes led the way with 21, and he's still a youngster too. So Tommy Verdell's team is super duper young and very inexperienced. So what he built last year, he's going to have to wait just a little bit longer to get some of the youth up to speed in his program, but they'll do okay.
Yeah, they're gonna have some growing pains.
They are. Yeah, and tonight they're at Franklin Tech.
McCann Tech opened their season, Rick, with a loss to Mount Everett in a very, very close game, good game at Mount Everett, 46-38.
Yeah, the rival. If McCann had a true rival, through the years, Tim, even now, it's the Mount Everett Eagles. And they play them tough every year. Head on head, you almost have to think it's almost 500 historically. Right. They usually split the season series. Sometimes they don't even win on their home floor. They win on the road. You never know. But they battle it out. There's two schools that just mirror each other in so many different ways athletically in their two programs. And it was a good ball game, 46-38, low scoring. It was only 8-6 after the first quarter and 14-11 at halftime. So defense played the role of that game. Zach Howland led the way with 17 and Eric Rougeau 12. And as I said a few moments ago, Tim, about the Hoosick Valley kids, Wicks, Moynihan, and Bradley, who will lead the way from them. And the same thing with Mormon and maybe Beauchamp and Bond for Drury. You're going to hear those names at McCann. It's going to be Zach Howland and Eric Rougeau. So Chris Bullitt, Coach Bullitt's going to have to get some kids to step up and help them out a little bit and score. You know, they're not going to score 17, 20 points every game. So he's going to have to get some balanced scoring from some of his younger kids, and hopefully they'll come through.
Yeah, and when we have a chance, Rick, just following up a little bit with some of the other teams in Berkshire County that we've been looking at. You alluded to Pittsfield off to a good start after having lost their 5 stars. They've kind of reloaded and are off to a nice start. Taconic also is undefeated. They've won their first 2 ball games, and they're now 2-0. And Monument Mountain, they're 2-0, and they're solid. Those are 3 solid teams that are off to unbeaten starts here to start the season.
Yeah, they're the larger schools, of course, in Berkshire County, and they up here, we're talking about grades 9 through 12 being 300 and some odd. It's not like that at Wacona. It's not like that at PHS, Taconic, or at Monument Mountain, and that's why they're in different divisions. But Coach Heafy has got some kids back and some newer kids, so I think he's going to be fine. They're going to battle out with Pittsfield. Coach Edgerton gets the best out of his kids. He's built himself a nice program down there. And, of course, Randy Colas at Monument Mountain. I know that Coach Reset has the utmost respect for Coach Colas, and they have a great relationship, and he's got a great team. And I was kind of glad, Tim, because I did see Isaiah Kiefner's name in the original roster of the team, and I heard he had been injured during football. It was good to see him back already against the Blue Devils, because he's going to play a major role with Manny Brown and with Griffin McElroy, for sure.
Back he was, Rick. In fact, I will tell you, after watching Monument Mountain, yes, Manny Brown, great high school player, very offensive-minded, but I'll tell you, in my opinion, it's Isaiah Kiefner that makes that team go. He plays great defense, distributes the ball. He can score when he needs to. He is a bundle of energy out there. He raised real havoc on that floor defensively for Monument when they played Drury. So I have to agree with you. He's good to see him. He's a very fine high school basketball player.
Yeah, it's good to see these teams off to a good start.
Yep. You know, Rick, a new segment where we're going to be promoting this year in High School Basketball Weekly and throughout our broadcast. You know, you're looking at a lot of years of observing high school basketball, both in Northern Berkshire, Berkshire County, Western Mass. And we are going to attempt to compile the top 10 players of all time at both boys and girls at Drury High School and Adams/Hoosick Valley. And I think we're going to have some fun with it. As we go through the season, we will talk about certain players on High School Basketball Weekly each week. We're also going to talk about certain players, both boys and girls, during halftime of our broadcasts. And we're also going to invite viewers to chime in with their particular viewpoints and or picks for the top 10 players of all time, boys and girls, at both Hoosick Valley, Adams, and Drury. And they can email their selections in at the email address at the bottom of your screen here, nobctv@bcn.net. and we'll be interested to hear what you have to say. We're also going to have some interviews with people throughout the community who have some insights. So it's going to be interesting. I know we're going to have a very hard time putting that list together, Rick.
Right, and we have our own points of view already, but you and I can go back to, I can go back to maybe the mid-'60s, just maybe the mid-'60s, when I was a youth going to the games at the North Adams Armory, and I got to see the St. Joe kids, and we'll do St. Joe and McCann right after that, maybe next season. We'll start off with Drury and Adams / Hoosick Valley, and we're going to be talking to a lot of folks because we have some definites out there already.
Right.
But there's going to be we don't want controversy, but we want opinions.
Right.
My guy's better than your guy,
Right.
But it's going to be a lot of fun, and we're going to ask as many folks in this area. So please chime in with your top picks of the best players of all time at those two wonderful schools.
It'll be a lot of fun as we go through the season, that's for sure. Rick, let's turn our attention now, when we have a moment, to the girls' action. It's been off to a little bit of a bang here, and let's start with the Mount Greylock Mounties, who got off to a great start. They've already played 3 games, Rick.
Right. When we did our preseason show, I had made a comment that I think this was a great opportunity for Coach Jacoby's kids, just because of their youth, to get off to a start in a tournament with teams that they fare well with. And they certainly did. They were invited to the Franklin County, Franklin Tech Christmas tournament, and they started out by beating St. Mary's of Westfield by a wide margin of 76-21. The Lady Mounties led 21-7 at the end of the first quarter and 49-9 at halftime. And they were led by 9th grader Tanley Drake with 16 points. Maddie Powell had 15, and Tanley's sister Madison Drake added 11. All 11 Mounties that Coach Jacoby put into the game all scored in the game. And then the following night, they actually won the Franklin Tech tournament by defeating the host team, Franklin Tech 54-28. Again, Tanley Drake with 16. Again, Maddie Powell and Madison, each with Drake with 12. But then they, in their home opener, lost to Belchertown, a very good team, 47-33. That game could have been a lot closer than the score shows, but I don't have any scoring that I could find on that game. And on Friday, they're at Agawam. But they're off to a good start at 2-1.
Yeah, we're high on this team, and the young Mounties under Coach Jacoby, and I think they're going to have a fine season this year. And I'm so happy that they're off to such a good start. And especially, we talked a little bit about Tanley Drake, so young, but really such a talented young lady on the high school for Coach Jacoby and the Mounties. She's going to have a great year, I think.
Yeah, the team is very, very young. I know that I think A.J. Pelkey is a senior, and maybe Mia Filio. And they're leaders, but they're more role players. The scoring is going to come from where the scoring came in that tournament. It's going to be the Drake sisters and Maddie Powell. And if they can give double figures to Coach Jacoby on a fairly regular basis, I think they're going to be fine. And Coach Jacoby, over the last few years, has had that train that almost made it to the top. I think I can hit the 500 mark. And they'd get close and they'd fall back. They'd get close, they'd fall back. And I think he's building a team over there where he has the possibility of earlier in the season, through the midseason, staying ahead above that 500 mark, where he doesn't have to chase that down.
Right. And for her efforts at the start of this year, our Player of the Week for the girls of High School Basketball Weekly is Tanley Drake. And there you see what she did in the first 2 games for the Mounties. Tanley Drake out of the blocks very quickly so far.
Yeah, she's going to be a 5-year starter. She was a starter as an 8th grader last year, and she's a 9th grader this year. And we're going to be calling her name for a few years now. And you take somebody with her talent, with her sister's talent, and a few other young ladies over there, and Coach Jacoby, one of the better teaching coaches in girls basketball in Berkshire County for sure, is going to get that program and move forward with it very quickly, I think.
Right. The more things change, the more they stay the same, Rick. The defending Division V champion, Lady Hurricanes of Hoosick Valley, got off to a roaring start here this year by beating Greenfield 69 to 27.
Yeah, and that's it's a pretty good program. They've been down the last couple of years, but God, you got to go back, Tim, probably 8 to 10 years ago, and I remember talking to the head coach over there, and he said he wants to play more Berkshire County teams because he felt at that time that's who you wanted to play to make yourself better. And he did build a good program over there, and they're just back down just a little bit. But, boy, the defending state D5 champions just took right off. Sophomore Reagan Shea led the way with 22. Ashlyn LaSure had 15. Emma Meswar had 10. And I think those three young ladies, again, will be in double figures. They're all going to average double figures. It's just a question of where. And the other players for Coach Frederick's team, what will they give him on a regular basis? But you never know. And boy, I'll tell you, that's a team that practices their threes and shoots their three ball as well as anybody. And with the offense that Coach Frederick runs, there are many, many open looks, and almost any player on that team can knock down a three. And Reagan Shea did great in that game. So, but she's a three-point specialist already.
And I think, that's a key to Hoosick Valley this year. You know what you're going to get from Ashlyn LaSure, Emma Meswar, outstanding players in their own right. But there has to be another player to step up. And I think Reagan Shea will have a lot to say about how far Hoosick Valley can go this year. They play a difficult schedule. They have a nucleus of their team back, but they've got some young players that are going to need to step up for Coach Frederick. And Reagan Shea, right in the first game, was able to do that for Hoosick Valley. So that'll be interesting to watch Hoosick Valley as they go along and see what she can continue to contribute. For McKeon Tech, Rick, they played 2 games and they lost 2 games to start their season. But they were competitive in both ball games, Rick.
Yeah, they participated in that Franklin Tech tournament that St. Mary's and Mount Greylock also participated in. And they lost 47-33 to the host team in the first night. Faith Brazo, who missed last season but is back, and she impressed me when she was a 9th grader. I think she's a junior this year. She led the way with 12 points. Brooke Reynolds had 6. They staged a comeback and fell just short to St. Mary's of Westfield and lost 32-29. Again, Brazo led the way in double figures with 10. And this Friday they'll have a tough one at Greenfield. But Coach Krantz, in his second year, still trying to build a program, still with a lot of youth there and a lot of hope.
Right. And again, in both ball games, they were there competing with both games in both games that they lost. Jury has yet to play. In fact, we're going to be covering them as our high school game of the week on Friday night, December 20th. We'll be at Drury High School to see them play Monument Mountain. So we'll get a chance to see the Lady Blue Devils. They're going to open up against Agawam. We'll report on that game next week. But talking a little bit about the rest of the county, Rick, I note that Pittsfield is off to a good start. They're undefeated, and they've beaten a couple good squads in East Longmeadow and Northampton. So they're off to an undefeated start. And I was very interested to see Wacona. They 1-1. They lost to a very good South Hadley team, 61-38. So South Hadley, who Hoosick Valley plays twice, they're going to be tough.
We saw South Hadley last year, and we were very impressed. Hoosick Valley clawed their way and snuck out a victory at home last week.
Right.
I'm sorry, last season. And I said to myself, boy, these Lady Tigers at South Hadley have got one heck of a team here. And they went on to win the conference. They had a great run in the States and beat the Hurricanes on their home floor. So they're going to be the competition for the Hoosick Valley Hurricanes in their league this year. They're just a great squad. So, Waukeena, no slouch. Coach K.
That's a good squad.
She's got a real good squad led by Madison McCarthy, who's led the scoring down there for the first 2 games. And as you mentioned, Pittsfield High, off to another good start. And Taconic is 1-1, and Taconic at the very beginning of the season, they weren't even certain about whether they were going to field the varsity team or not. So I think they're going with a lot of inexperience down there, but the Taconic Thunder will do okay. It's just a very tough league that they're into.
Right, and it'll be interesting. We're going to see. I mean, South Hadley plays Waukeena twice. They play Hoosick twice, so they're going to be around up here if you want to catch them. They finished, they were in the finals of Division IV last year in the States, and that they went all the way to the finals before they got knocked off. So they're a quality basketball.
And then going back to the boys just for a second, they didn't change the format in Western Mass. So I took a look at the Hoosick Valley Hurricanes League. And there's no question about it. Monument Mountain would be the king of the hill,
right?
And you have to take them down if you want to win that division. They are D3, a couple D3 schools, D3, and there's D4. There's some D5s, but it's good competition for the Hurricanes. And then another very good division, almost quite as strong as that, is the one that the Drury Blue Devils play in, with Pioneer Valley, Frontier, Greenfield, Hopkins Academy. That's a tough one, and perfect for Coach Reset. And then for Coach Bullett's team, for the boys, Mount Everett, Ludlow, some of the schools they can compete with too. So I think they got it right a few years ago when they created these suburban centrals, tri-county leagues throughout Western Mass. Not going to lie to you, I still like the Western Mass tournament, still like the Curry-Hicks Cage. We don't do that any longer. But they do have their own little tournament at the end of the season, and that's better than nothing at all. But it's going to be an exciting year. We're only into week 1.
Oh, so. Absolutely. But before you know it, we're going to be talking about being at midseason and then talking about the tournament at the end. So it goes by pretty quickly, and you want to check your schedules. Of course, we'll be following all the teams each week, High School Basketball Weekly, and of course our game of the week. And again, our game of the week, which we will show next week, is Monument Mountain versus Drury. That is on Friday, December 20th. If you're available tomorrow night, you want to get up there to Drury and check out the Blue Devils. And, Rick, before we close out this week's show, we want to just acknowledge a very sad event here in the northern Berkshire and all of Berkshire County high school sports. The untimely passing of Allison Felix, a Drury High School graduate, a member of the Lady Blue Devils, and just a very, very sad situation overall. And we'd be remiss if we didn't mention Allison, who was just a wonderful person and a great student athlete for Drury High School.
Yeah, she comes from an incredible family, so loved, so respected in the northern Berkshire and Berkshire County. And she was a privilege. What an incredible, beautiful young lady.
Right.
And it was an honor and privilege to cover her. And it's a privilege to cover Jacinta right now at Drury High School. And all of us here at Northern Berkshire Community Television would just like to send our condolences and our thoughts and prayers to Allison's family, including the entire Moulton family, on her untimely passing. And we're all devastated.